Some books can change your life or even save your life. Today, we're going to tell you all about our favorites to help you live happier and healthier. Welcome to The Healthy View. I'm Michelle Lewtan, and I'm here with my very well-read co-hosts, Andrea Beeman and Lewtan. We are expert health coaches who've helped thousands of people around the world. And we've read a ton of great books along the way, even written a few. Andrea, what are 2 or 3 books that have changed your life?
Come on. Is this a trick question? 2 or 3 books? I mean, it's never just 2 or 3 books. I have like a list of about 1,000 books that I could just whittle off, but I'll try my hardest to bring it down to 2 or 3, or maybe 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, but I'll bring it in. I'll wrap it up. So the first one that was a game changer and a life changer for me was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise. And I know that it is crunchy granola town. And I know that it's all about, learning how to love yourself, but it was imperative for me, that book, and a life changer for me because I did not love myself, right? I was one of those people that could not look in the mirror and say, I love you to me. I had all of this loathing, internal, like you're not good enough, you suck, you're all this negative ninny inside. And You Can Heal Your Life helped me to see that. And then I would look in the mirror and I'd try to say, I love you. And I kept trying. I just didn't believe it. And now, now I'm like, of course I love her. You wake up in the morning, like, I love her so much. So it was a game changer. And that was eye-opening for me. The second one was when I was beginning my business about 1 million years ago. I read The 7 Spiritual Laws to Success by Deepak Chopra. And I don't like any of his books before or after that book. I gotta say, even though he's a great guy, I'm just not a Deepak fan. But that book I loved because it was all about like just creating your content and putting it out there without having, waiting for anything to come back in return. It was almost like a mixture of business plus Buddhism plus spirituality. It was really good. And it just helped me to just keep creating and putting it out, not expecting anything in return. And, because sometimes if you're waiting, you just be waiting forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And like, how come this isn't happening? So just keep getting into the creative process, which is very spiritual. And then, of course, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And Lisa, if you haven't read this one, because I know you're Jewish gal, it's fantastic. It's written about the Nazi, it was a doctor that got taken into the Nazi camps. And afterwards, when he goes through that whole thing, he's trying to find the meaning. What's the meaning of life? And why did some people live? And why did some people not live? And it's so good. Like the power of the human spirit is just so strong. And it's, you're like, it's gut wrenching, but it's a beautiful book. And I know that this is on the opposite spectrum, but I'm going to give you a number 4, which is a recent book. And it's also about the human spirit, but from a different perspective. And it's Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And it is rough and tumble, and he curses on every page, and he's mother F this and F you that. And it's not a spiritual book at all, but it is the power of the human spirit. This guy does stuff that he moves beyond the capacity of a human being to do stuff physically that is inspirational. And then I'm going to finish it. One more. Do I get one more, Michelle?
You got one more. Sure. I'm already writing stuff down. I bet I was writing things down. I already wrote down 2. Go.
Okay. Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's another one of those little feel-good books and just little short stories of like lighthearted stuff. And I remember when I was a teenager, because I was a troubled teenager, I was on drugs and all this other stuff. And my uncle handed me this book and he's like, you're always fighting. You're always fighting. You're always screaming and yelling. And, here's a book for you. And I'm like, Chicken Soup for the Soul. What's the matter with you? What the heck am I going to read this crap for? And from the first little story, I was like, oh my God, this is a good little book. And it was just a good little book of happy, feel good stories. And he was very inspirational for me, Jack Canfield and Victor Hansen, because this book was initially, they got turned down by every single publisher that they went to. I think they went to 177
Wow.
publishing.
And look at them now.
Wow. And now it's all over the world, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and it's in a million languages. It's just a really feel good book when you're like down in the dumps and you need a pickup story. Good one. That's what I got. Hands down. Boom, drop the mic.
Wow. So first of all, I totally agree with you, Andrea, about Man's Search for Meaning. I did read that book and it did change my life. I remember closing the book and going, I know my life purpose. And so if you have not read that, go out there and read it. It is a game changer kind of book. So love that. But I'm not counting that as one as mine because I have so many books that made an impact on my life as well. And it was so hard to choose. I am going to say Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul. I read the book many years ago. And when I was kind of first getting more into meditation and understanding the separation of my thoughts and observing my thoughts versus being my thoughts. And I went back and I read it again recently. And I realized how far I had come on my own journey of understanding. And I just think it's an amazing book. His other book, The Surrender Experiment, is phenomenal as well. A book that many people have not heard of that I think is fabulous is called Spontaneous Happiness. It's by Dr. Andrew Weil. And what I love about this book, it's for people dealing with depression. And he basically explains that there are basic things that we need as animals to be healthy, whether it's movement and fresh air and really basic things, and that we're not getting them in our daily lives. And he puts it in such a beautiful, succinct way. I've given this book to many people who are dealing with depression, and always very appreciative, and a lot of insights that come from that. Oh God, the next one. I'm going to go with The 5 Love Languages. It's pretty well known. It was a game changer for me when I read it, again, years ago, but just understanding that the way that I show love and receive love is very different than the way my husband or my friends or my children or anybody else do. And so I think for everyone in every relationship, that's a really, really powerful book. So many more, but I'm going to throw in my book. Why not? Busy, Stressed, and Food Obsessed. I do get a lot of good feedback on it. And also, it changed my life in writing the book. And I will say that writing a book, if you haven't done it, is a very intense, very challenging thing to do. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in my whole life because it took so much discipline for such a long period of time. And I'm really happy if someone writes to me and say it makes a difference in their life, because I take a lot of the concepts that I use with my one-on-one coaching clients and I offer it to people who can't afford coaching or just don't have access to this type of thing. So if you are busy, stressed, and food obsessed, check it out. It is on Amazon. So those are my choices.
That was going to be mine.
You can say it too.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Writing a book, that's a whole other angle to this, right? The book that changed my life, writing the book. I don't got any books. I got 3 podcasts. That's enough. All right. The books that changed my life, this was so easy for me. It was like, boom, boom, boom. I remember them. I remember the cover. I remember where I was when I got them. The first was, I started getting interested in nutrition when my health had taken a nosedive in my 20s. And I remember walking into the Boston Public Library, which is a beautiful library, finding the section on nutrition. It's not that big, at least it wasn't then. There weren't that many books. They all looked really boring. And one of them just jumped off the shelf at me. I mean, first of all, it's this like bright green color, so that's gonna do it. And had, some pink crazy lettering on it. It didn't look like all the other boring books. And it was Jessica Porter's The Hip Chick's Guide to Macrobiotics. And this book was like so interesting to me. I was reading it on the T on the way home, like just immersed in this crazy, crazy book that was saying things I had definitely never heard before. Talking about grounding, going outside without your shoes on, putting your feet in the dirt and the grass. I'm like, what does this have to do with eating? I don't get it, but you're funny. So I kept reading. And that was the thing, I started to make some of the recipes in there. A lot of that barley malt you were talking about, Andrea, learning how to cook some grains and cook some beans. It made a huge impact on me and my health. But I think more so than like, what did I learn about eating beans? It was the approach, which I still take, I hope I still take towards all of these topics, where if it's boring, who wants it? Nobody wants to talk about any of this crap if it's boring, right? It has to be fun, it has to have some humor, it has to be relatable, or else we're just gonna put it down or turn on Netflix and zone out. So even today with my clients, I think it all has to come with some humor in order, and you know, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down kind of thing when it comes to learning about nutrition. So huge thanks to Jessica Porter for writing that one. Another book that changed my life, even though admittedly it was pretty dry, so this is a contrast, was Sugar Blues by William Dufty. I know you guys read that one,
Oh
right?
yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yep.
That one was just full of so much information. I don't care how we wrote it. Eye-opening. And after reading it, I was like, well, obviously right now I'm going to walk over to my pantry and read the ingredient label and everything in there, and just tossed bags and cans, and I did a whole bag of trash out of the pantry and realized all that added sugar that had been part of my diet that I had no idea about. My health improved dramatically from that moment on, and I do credit that book. And I'm going to give you one more. This is a little bit more of like a feel-good life, what is life all about kind of book. It's called How Yoga Works by Michael Roach. And I thought it was going to be a lot more like telling me how yoga works, you know, like, well, the femur bone goes like this, and then the chakra, and like a technical book about yoga. But it's not. It's actually this really cute story that explains life. And it does it in such an easygoing manner that you don't feel hit over the head with, you know, esoteric nonsense. It was relatable, and it immediately became a part of me. So if you haven't read How Yoga Works, highly recommend it. Those are my top 3.
Awesome sauce. Thank you everyone for joining us today. You've heard a few of our favorite books. Now we'd like to know yours. For those of you that watch us on Facebook at facebook.com/healthyviewshow, you can leave a comment and let us know what are your favorite books. I know I'm always in the market for a new book. These gals are avid readers. So send us your faves. We'd love to hear. You can also leave us a review if you're feeling extra generous and inspired. We'd like to know how we're doing. How are we doing? Let us know. So leave us a review on iTunes. We're also happy to send you an email when a new episode is released. You can sign up for those notifications at healthyviewshow.com. Thanks again for joining us today. We are sending you a whole lot of love.